and they laid into him for that. He said, yeah.
Testing. All right, hello. It's just hang on a second. Let me get my headphones in. Actually. Okay. Testing. 1, 2. So we're actually live. We are live, aren't we? We are live. So there were 2 open discussions scheduled Friday and Saturday, and there's a guest on Sunday. So everybody just wanted to come to the Sunday episode, and I don't blame them. That's fine. Everybody wants to say hello to Reverend Wendy Hamilton again tomorrow from 2 to 3. So we're just gonna have a casual social stream for a little while. I don't know how long we'll go, but Ariel's here for a bit at least, and I'm here. And I think I might play a little AI dungeon, and I like having these pretty colors on the screen. I've changed the stream to category to entertainment, so maybe some people will show up. Who knows? Got 3 viewers. That's nice. Entertainment's the category, people apparently, not politics. I'm gonna go step away for just a second. I gotta go. Gotta get a shirt on because it's cold. And if I have the camera on, I'll probably want a shirt on first. Anyway, this is not Plex Storm, right? Ariel, how you doing? You can hear me?
Yeah. I can hear
All
you.
right, great. All right, hang on. I'll be right back. All right, let's see. Can I get my camera on? I could put my camera on, I suppose. Is my camera gonna work? It might actually gonna work. Yeah. If I let's see. If I do that on that, my camera will come. Ariel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you would be talking while I was gone. You've been silent.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's see.
You just let the silence happen. I'm trying to get my camera to go.
Oh, yeah. No, I was waiting until your camera came on.
We've been streaming for a while.
Oh, cool. Harry is here.
Oh, Harry. Hi. Hey. What's up?
Hi. Do you guys mind if, since I was told the episode was canceled, do you guys mind if I eat while we're talking? Cause I'm
yeah, we're just doing a social stream. There's my camera.
Doing a social stream. Yeah.
My camera's here. There we go.
So,
all right.
So Harry, tomorrow I'm gonna be on Nerds for Yang. So
nice. Cool.
At 10 PST, and yeah, it's cool because he actually got to talk to Andrew Yang, and I'm just gonna tell him that like we deserve. I mean, like we've like not saying anything, but like he like even if we don't have like 1 billion views, 1 billion subs, like we still deserve to be talking to him directly. Yeah. So it's like.
Although I won't be too disappointed if Yang's not available.
Right, yeah.
I'll just whistle anyways, you know.
Yeah. Actually, I remember when one of the humanity hangs, I did get a chance to kind of like speak to him, but I'm talking about like speaking to him in a way that's like a little more serious, kind of like thinking about strategies and ideas and brainstorming, not talking to him in a fangirl kind of way, like,
exactly.
That's not productive, like fangirling or fanboying and shit like that.
Yeah,
it's like like serious like planning and stuff and like okay, like what how does the groundwork look, and what are we building from over here and stuff like that, not like saw that picture of your chicken soup. It's like,
Yeah,
you
it's like
know, like all the
fangirling
vapid,
is for like when
shallow
yeah, fanboying or
nonsense.
fangirling is for like when somebody like writes a really awesome novel, like
Right.
like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, but I'm like, just personally for me, like I always hated like celebrity culture. I mean, not that
yeah,
I hated like Hollywood movies. I mean, I liked Hollywood movies. I liked, action
yeah,
films and comedy films. I loved all that stuff. But I
yeah.
always hated the idea of, just
Mhm.
being infatuated with a celebrity. It's like ever since I was younger, I always hated that because it's like, hey, we're all
Yeah,
like freaking humans. It's like,
yeah,
oh, they touched me or they said hi to me. It's like, big
yeah. It's
fucking
ridiculous.
deal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't give a shit.
Like,
Like did they?
there are healthier ways to be fans of people than that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, you can be be a fan of their work. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But like to like
Obsession is bad.
trample over people just so you can have them like shake your hand or say
Yeah,
hi to you or something like that.
yeah.
That's like that's stupid.
Yep,
And it's
yep,
like, oh, let me get a selfie. And it's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, I don't care. Like, yeah, it's
yeah. Like,
yeah. I think like even
yeah, I
even if
remember like
yeah.
during Yang's campaign, even then, even though I had already like had this idea of like standing on his shoulders rather than just kissing his feet, I
Right.
still really deeply admired him. So like when I went to a
Yeah.
fundraising event once, and like I was like the only person who actually tried to shake his hand rather than in the selfie, rather than just like
Yeah, exactly. Instead of just like, oh, let me just get a selfie for the sake of getting a selfie. It's like you you
actually
you
shake his
want
hand.
it, you want to
I didn't
just,
like like
yeah, it's good to like not have that because it's
yeah,
just counterproductive.
yeah,
and
exactly,
and like I respect him for his genius. I mean, he is a genius.
exactly,
So
yeah.
I
It's
I
super
I,
important.
I want to have like deep, thoughtful conversations any day than just a stupid selfie.
Yeah, and
And
I think a lot of people who would have seen my selfie with him when it was taken
mhm.
would have been very deeply confused because like
Right.
on the one hand I was like super excited and like I was like 'cause he's someone I really even now still look up to. It's just that I
Right.
didn't see him as perfect. I didn't see him as perfect.
Right,
Also, like, as
exactly.
a potential
Well,
colleague, I ended up shaking
it's a
his
whole idea of like being a friend, not a fan.
hand.
It's like, I'm definitely a friend, but not like a
Or being
fan.
a fan who is willing to rival the person they're fans of.
Right, exactly. It's like build off of,
Mhm.
what they're doing, because like I think so
Mhm.
many people in this world are so confused and so lost that
Yep.
they just put
Leaders.
like all their eggs in their basket, and it's like
Yep.
they become like this,
Yeah.
father figure to these people, and their forms of government, i.e. North Korea,
Mhm.
that's like, oh, like dear leader, like
Yeah.
that. And like even with like the Trump ones,
Mhm.
it's like, oh, like they don't know what to do now. It's like, god damn it, people, like have a mind of your own. I mean, it's
Yep.
okay to admire someone, but not just like surrender all your autonomy and critical
Yeah.
thinking skills that you have. Like, that's
Yeah.
un-American even. Like,
Mhm. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Honestly,
Yeah.
um, sorry, go on. Sorry, I took up another bite
Oh,
there.
no. That's
What
I was
is
gonna say
un-American?
the
People whip
comment.
that out like I like
Hmm?
what does that mean? you
Yeah,
know?
I know. I mean,
Like I
but
hate the
it doesn't
hubris
mean
that we're like a
it doesn't
unique
mean
once in a world nation. Like there's
yeah,
where it's and
that
we're the
doesn't mean
exception.
anything.
Like other like the normal rules about
Yeah,
nations
yeah,
don't apply
that
to us
I
somehow
I
for
mean
some
I
reason. Like
mean
why?
I I
Normal rules about
it's
nature.
BS
Yeah,
that, like,
American
because
exceptionalism.
well, I mean, think about it. Like, we get this thing like in school that, like, oh, like we were founded off of the revolution,
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Mhm.
But it's like, well, who cares? Because here I am in a classroom,
Right.
and you can basically be my oppressor because I have to ask you to go pee, and I have to
Yeah.
ask you to like be a human being, and it's not fair. And like, what kind of
Yeah.
freedom do I
Yeah.
have in this school that you assholes created, that you control my life, and you don't let me ask
Yeah.
any questions that like challenge you? So it's like we just, replace the monarchy with this, overreaching schooling system that controls us against our free will for so many hours of the day, not letting us explore our creativity and our individualism. So take all your propaganda and shove it.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Part of it is also like, I think part of it is also like the reason that the whole idea of American exceptionalism, like partly because for a
Right.
while we'd conquered the world, or at least our government had.
Yeah.
And that's not the case anymore. It seems like, because like
Right.
we kind of like sort of like squandered our chance to change the world. We were like, okay, we were conquered the world. We're in charge now. Now what? And nobody had any idea. They just abandoned it.
Like the whole idea that we do a pledge of allegiance should just scare everyone.
Oh yes, for sure.
Like I pledge allegiance to a piece of cloth. It's a piece of cloth.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you're asking me to like pledge my allegiance. First of all, when you learn that, you don't even know what any of these words mean. You're just told to repeat them. You're just told to repeat words that you don't know the meaning of. Think about how, like, if we saw North Korea doing that, we'd be like, oh, shame on them. But like, oh, look, like we're doing it right here in this classroom in Ohio or in Kansas.
Right.
And it's okay. It's just like, okay, like hypocrisy much?
Right. Well, the thing is, that sort of thing is very surprisingly common. I mean, like,
right.
The thing is, like, there's a lot of other forms of that people just don't think about, where we are forced to sign contracts against our will without even knowing about it when we first sign it.
Like I never agreed to like being graded. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like and the grades are basically meaningless. Like once you leave, they're no longer in the education ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. And I never agreed to be circumcised as a baby, so.
Yeah, it's like there's so many things you just don't agree to, and then people keep like saying, "Oh, freedom this, freedom that." But like, if you really dive deep into it, it's like a baby doesn't even agree to be born.
Yeah.
It's like you just better.
Although to be fair, they still have a choice of whether they keep their lives afterwards. So that's still a fair bargain in a lot of ways. Although I would also say that because of evolutionary like biology and stuff, and how our minds and souls developed over time, anyone who wanted to not live, inherently, and not just because they were depressed and their life sucked. If a baby doesn't want to live, probably either suffering a lot in a very very short amount of time, or it just wouldn't be existing in the first place. It wouldn't have been born in the first place, because like evolution wouldn't select, nature would not select for that kind of thing.
Right. I just find it like so sad that I think if it weren't for this like neoliberal frame, like we could kind of like, could you imagine just living in the world of a future? Like if we implemented UBI even like 100 years ago, and we'd see just this burst of creativity and like creation and like advances in everywhere. I mean
10,000 years of slavery is not easy for a culture to get past.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean,
honestly, that's a large part of the reason for our stagnation. I think. Honestly, it seems to me like I said in our interview earlier, like the fact that for the past 300 or 400 years or so, like nobody noticed, hey, there are other kinds of foundational methods we can use besides the scientific method. That never even occurred to anyone that they could do that. So it's like, and then we got like the Deming cycle in the 1950s, and the writing method in 1997, and nobody noticed. Everybody just like walked right past it, and it's like it's pathetic. Like
I mean, throughout history, people always admired like the courageous people who were willing to speak out against bullshit after they died. So it's like come on, man. Like
Let's
can
go
they,
back to what Harry was talking about. Harry, did you just touch on some alternatives to the scientific method?
Depends on what you mean by alternatives.
Yeah.
It's not that they're alternatives, that they fulfill other kinds of functions that the scientific method isn't as good at. The
Yeah.
scientific method is mainly good for solving deep, generalizable mysteries. If the problem you're dealing with isn't a mystery, scientific method, not so good for it. But people still try to apply it to those things anyways, even when they're not mysteries, even when it's a different kind of problem, because they don't know what else to apply, that can spread easily.
Mhm.
Because the scientific method, one of its main advantages is that it's a foundational method, so it can spread a lot very quickly, and it has a lot of power because it's a step-by-step method, So like it allow people to build a lot of infrastructure very, very quickly, and a lot of very big infrastructure based on that, because step-by-step method, is more scalable, because when you're using a logical step-by-step method, that makes it easier to teach whatever you're trying to teach, and easier for people to learn it, easier for it to spread, easier for people to learn it more quickly. The problem is that science is not the right kind of skill for everything. Investigation is not the right kind of skill for everything,
Right.
and people end up having to stretch the definition of problems, like different kinds of problems, in order to make it sound as if they're mysteries,
Right.
in order to apply science to them.
And there's a huge perverse incentive in like academia to do this, and in the core, and there's a monetary incentive in many cottage industries connected to it.
Yep.
I call it academia.
Academia. Yeah, it's like blind spots. Like people are so used to using science for everything, they don't think to use anything else. Like instead of always having that list of like bullet point criteria, like those bullet point instructions that you got from a research based whatever. Why not just learn the skills of your trade from an actual experienced practitioner in your field, and then practice those skills until you're good at it, rather than just using the list of bullet point instructions to imitate it.
Yeah.
Because the bullet point instructions, if what you're doing is something complicated enough and dynamic enough that sometimes bullet point instructions aren't enough. Sometimes you actually there's not really a substitute a lot of times for actually practicing.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what I hate about our schooling system in general.
Mhm.
It's zero practice, and it's all busy work and memorization, and
Yup.
it's so I don't know, it's
Yeah.
trash. Just that.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I love people like Erica Rhodes. They're going in there, and they're seeing all of
Mhm.
what's the word I'm looking for? Not just blind spots. They're seeing all the gaps, and they're
Yeah.
trying to fill them in. They're seeing all the holes, and they're trying to plug them before this whole damn ship sinks. I mean,
But
or
then the problem becomes, a lot of times they try to plug them with the same sort of things that
right,
create the holes in the first place. Like
right, yeah.
we see all these infrastructure holes,
But
and then we try to plug
it's
them with more infrastructure. But the infrastructure is like the kind of infrastructure that's like we're relying too much on like this.
we're looking for the people who cause the problems to solve the problem.
That too.
You know?
Not only that, but we're looking for this. We're using the same tools that cause the problems to solve the problems. So it's like,
Mhm.
we need more tools, in order to like compensate for the weaknesses of other tools.
Right.
Like we're using the
Yeah.
same method, the same logical step-by-step method for everything.
Yeah.
There's going to be blind spots. There's going to be holes in it that need to be covered by other kinds of tools.
Yeah. Yeah. It's thing, and we can, but we kill creativity so
Yeah.
bad. It's like stomped out of us at a young age, and
Yep.
like being an adult and like making it in like a creative industry is just like undoing the years and years of damage you just got from your own kind of like culture that you grew up in. It's like you have to like unschool yourself after they're done, things. So a lot of your adulthood sometimes is just undoing all the damage that you got from your childhood.
Yep. Yep.
you know yeah.
It's
And
honestly
there's
pathetic. And it's like, I mean, to be fair, like to be fair, like, I mean, it would have made sense to enslave us back when, like, the dawn of agriculture, when we were like first, like, we didn't have any automation back then, so it was like kind of needed to in order for our species to survive. But like, we're long past that, like, we don't need to be enslaved anymore in order to avoid a famine. Like, it was necessary back then, as terrible as it is, but like, we're way past that. We don't need it anymore. And people need to get with the program.
Get the program.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are people that are just so freaking comfortable in all of this because it just serves them. The problems that people are having is directly related to the profits that they're having. So you stop the problem, you stop the profits. They don't like that. They're gonna make
Yeah,
sure
but those
that.
profits. But ultimately, money is just a placeholder for value. Like, what is
Right,
the
yeah.
money used for?
I don't know. There's I think they're so deep inside of their own rabbit hole, like a pretzel. Like their heads are up their butts that they don't even care to like at this point to like take
I
it
think
out.
I think a lot. Well, I think a lot of them just are very distrustful of the rest of society because, like,
Yeah.
consider that, like, for the past like 10,000, almost over 10,000 years or so, most of that time, our society was dependent on slavery in order to, like, maintain, to not let us fall apart, and, like,
Well,
in
no,
order to
it's
avoid famines and stuff. We have
new
automation,
kind of
so it's like,
slavery. It's slavery through fear instead of slavery through coercion. So there's
that is
two.
that is
There's like just total like brute force slavery where with
all
like
right.
shackles and
Like
whips and
psychological manipulation, right?
yeah. And now it's
I
like
see what
now
you
it's
mean.
the psychological variance of slavery, which is a lot more sneaky because you're telling people, well, you're free. Like we're not forcing you to do anything, but if you don't do it, you're probably going to end up like starving or on the streets and stuff. So so it's
Yeah,
like
and I would
yeah,
also note that psychological manipulations, right, that tend to not work as well without some sort of like physical like component. Like,
yeah. Sure.
basically I think what it does, the psychological manipulation part, doesn't work really well on its own. But when you couple it with a smaller amount of physical force, then it works really well. You basically, the psychological manipulation is a force
Right. Yeah.
multiplier
Well, I mean
for
that's why
physical
like
force.
schools kind of like have a truancy officer and stuff. So
Yep.
like they force you to be in there and
Yep.
stuff and yeah
Right. Because
it's
basically what
kind
it
of
means is you don't have to physically have a slave master present for every single person,
right.
like wherever they are. So it makes it can have a bit more
Yeah,
free reign.
it's like surveillance state and
It's like, consider like the NSA. They don't have to
Mhm.
watch every single one of us personally. They have machines. They can just like wait for a ping to happen that, like, oh, there's something that, like, someone said certain keywords that we want to pay attention to, and it's like, and they go through the filter, like, do we actually want to look at this or not? So it's not like they're personal. It's not like Big Brother. It's not like Big Brother personally cares enough to watch each and every one of us individually. They have machines to do that. They don't have to.
All right.
You know.
Or they have like a whole bunch of little brothers like individually just
Yeah,
go around.
exactly. But those little brothers, they don't have enough of them to really micromanage everyone. So they rely on psychological manipulation in order to, like, make it so they don't have to physically micromanage every single person.
Right,
So,
yeah.
like, but the thing is also that, like, if you really pay attention, you might notice that the people who tend to get the most micromanaging and like people spying on them probably are the ones who either, one, are really, really, really unstable, or who are deemed to be not fit to work within the current system, or people who they deem to be dangerous, like in a violent way, like people who are like deemed to be like at risk of like violently attacking or damaging the security of those who are in power. So like if somebody like consider the difference between like somebody like who will like say, the government is corrupt and they're evil and blah blah blah, and therefore we need to overthrow them, violently, versus somebody who's like, let's just build infrastructure and you know do our own thing, and if they want to help, that great. If they don't want to help, that's okay. We don't have to worry about them. Just ignore them. Don't bother with them. Don't you can still pay your taxes to them because the money doesn't even mean anything a lot of times. At least if you have enough money, which you can get if you organize the grant foundations for UBI, that sort of thing. So it's like we don't need to be like in this stupid cycle stuck forever. Like I imagine I imagine a future where it's like we're all still paying taxes to the old government, and we're all still every once in a blue moon paying lip service to the whole establishment government system. How we're fine living under your rule when we're not really living under its rule. You know what I mean? Whereas the old system is like this shell that just goes through the motions like it always was built to do anyways, and then we just go on with our lives while it's doing that. And while you're busy over there hiding in your gated communities with all your machines and getting tax money from us and all these green pieces of paper that don't mean anything to us anymore. But since they clearly mean so much to you, well, we're glad to give you more paper. You know what I mean? We just humor them until they're comfortable enough and more relaxed and more ready to trust other people. They can rejoin the rest of society. Because honestly, I think that's a big part of the problem is that those at the top are probably terrified of us, trying to get revenge on them for how they treated us. That's probably the main reason why they're still trying to keep us enslaved, even after it's no longer necessary because we have enough automation for to have plenty, for everyone. So it's
or maybe
So what do we do about that?
Well,
they
honestly,
just,
I think the best thing we can do is just build infrastructure and try to salvage what we can, so that
try to show them that it's not in their best interest because it's creating more for them.
Well, and to be fair, there are already a lot of people in power who are in favor of UBI and things like that, like Nick Hanauer, Elon Musk. The problem comes when people, both people at the top and people at the bottom, aren't willing to let bygones be bygones and just start fighting each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a big part of it is the culture war. That, they use and a lot of low income people get caught up in that crap.
Yep.
So you got a ton of low income people on one side who buy into one side of the culture war, and a ton of low income people on the other side to buy into the other side of the culture war.
And then
you have the
people at the top who are also just as much as a part of the culture war.
Bullshit. I mean, if you had a good amount of brain cells, you wouldn't be falling for this culture war shit anymore. You'd say I don't care. I want my autonomy. I just want my my to know that I have to pay, to not worry about life. Let's just do the basics. Let's just not worry about bills and this and that and that.
Well, that
and
requires
then,
people to actually have knowledge.
after we
skills,
solve
education,
that,
and money
then
resources.
we can figure out this culture war stuff. But they've been doing it the other way around, and it's so stupid.
Yeah, and I think the culture war really is a self-perpetuating feedback cycle. It's both both a cause and an effect of our whole situation. And I mean, the bottom line is that the bottom line is it's not so easy for people to forgive 10,000 years of slavery. That's not easy. When people are being mistreated for a very long time, we're being tormented and abused and bullied our whole lives. Most people in that situation, they can't look past that. They end up just lashing out after they escape.
The thing is, it's not in your best interest if that just keeps going on, and that's the thing. It's
Create an endless cycle of vengeance.
Just get let's just get the basics. We can think about this. You're gonna feel much more stable if you go ahead and fight for your side of the culture war. But if you had income coming in, it would be a lot less stressful to fight that, and you'd be a lot more effective in fighting it if people's basic needs were met. So
I feel like people don't actually need to fight. It's all psychological. People are bullied for so long, and people have been feeling afraid of being bullied back for so long. It's Like we're at the point where it's like the only like we have enough automation, we have plenty of resources and everything for everyone. There's enough skills and education to go around. It's just that people are like so scared of each other and so angry at each other. They're probably gonna like it's like they're gonna throw.
I mean,
get
and
it
then they want to get the non-controversial and turn it into the controversial, and they want to get the people who actually like have the acumen and the insight to know the root causes of the problem and shun them from the public sphere and stuff because it doesn't fit their business.
That's really obvious. If somebody tries to actually solve the problems rather and make compromises rather than just joining the fight, people on every side see them as a traitor. Because people who are actually still fighting in the culture war, they feel like either you're with us or against us. That's the case both for people on like the poor people on either side, and also the people at the top. Who are like at that center top point of the hill, and they're trying to defend their position. All the enemies surrounding them, and they're like paranoid, like they're gonna like take one bad step and fall. So it's like, it's obviously not a sustainable situation, but we've been doing that for hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, like 10,000 years or so, a very long time. Like it was, I mean, only like about a tenth of our species history, but it's like the fact that we've been doing that for so long because we didn't have any choice. Because we didn't have the machines back then. And like,
Yeah. Wait, hang on, Shale. When was the time we had with Wendy? You said
it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 2 to 3.
At 2 to 3 EST, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me just make sure. 11, 12, 1, 2. Oh, okay, so that's 11 a.m. Okay, yeah. Tom has to push ours back to 3 p.m. PST, so we'll be done by then. Okay, cool.
But anyways, I really think that we need to get as many people as possible to just let go of their anger and their rage and just move on with life. Because the more we get to do that, the less harmful the class war that's about to come is going to be. The more we can minimize the damage it does. Because honestly, like it seems really obvious that there's a class war coming. The whole Robin Hood scandal is probably going to spiral out of control into that. And
yeah, that's the thing, and you forgive not for the other person but for yourself, because not forgiving is like you're drinking poison and you're expecting the other person to die. It's very sad. And some people can get caught up in that.
Wanting to lash out and get revenge, because people have been suffering a lot. Like a lot of us have been tormented and bullied and abused for a very long time to a very extreme degree. But it's there's no life at the end of that. There's no life at the end of that road. We actually have the chance for the first time in probably the first time about over 10,000 years to actually move on with our lives and not be stuck in this endless cycle of suffering and slavery and vengeance. It's we don't need that anymore.
It's we definitely don't need all these I don't mean to be rude, old people, kind of controlling everything anymore.
They don't need to control everything.
It's just out of such stubbornness and narcissism and
paranoia.
ego. It's disgusting. It has to stop. It just has.
It's not just disgusting. It's kind of pathetic.
Yeah. It's pathetic beyond measure.
It's paranoia. It's paranoia.
Yeah.
It's trust. They don't trust us to handle our own shit, and they don't trust us not to seek vengeance on them as soon as we escape from their clutches.
Yeah, it's grotesque. It just doesn't. It's not good. But I mean, of course, that's natural because you're always gonna have more power than the generations who are born after you because you've had more time to prepare. Well,
the generations that are born after also can potentially have bigger giant shoulders to stand on in the first place. Power also accumulates over generations too.
The thing that I'm pissed off about is that one I forgot even. He said he was in grade school at the time Joe Biden said it's time to pass the torch, and then when he was actually debating with him, he was like, "I'm still holding on to that torch," and then it's like, "Okay, yeah, keep holding on to it. The whole building's on fire, you stubborn idiot." It's like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, the torch needs to pass around and be passed back and forth and be shared with everyone. Like.
yeah, no, people
The idea of like passing the torch and never getting
kind
it back is the problem a lot of
of
times.
textbook narcissism and selfishness to
Yeah,
just never want to kind of like step down from your post. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
it's
And
just yeah.
and honestly, I just had a thought just now, and I think I might have suspected it to some extent for a while, but like I think it just sort of clicked just now. You know how all our mainstream media is always like fear mongering and paranoid and like distrust and spreading distrust. And you know who's spreading that mistrust and fear mongering and paranoia is the elites, the people in power.
Mhm.
But the reason that probably the reason that they're maintaining such a ridiculous like stranglehold, like this like iron grip on their power, is because they're afraid, because they're paranoid, because they're distrustful of the rest of us. They're afraid that if we escape from their clutches, if they give us even an inch, if they give us even an inch of leeway, that we just will go crazy and just get revenge on them for how they treated us.
Mhm.
So maybe the reason the reason it comes so naturally to them to spread fear and paranoia and anger and
Well,
distrust.
didn't that already kind
That's
of
how they
happen with
feel.
the
That's how they feel about us.
with
That's why they're able to spread that kind of thing so easily.
well that well when the riots happened, that kind of
Yeah,
did that was kind of the thing of that, but I see it's gonna happen one way or another, so you might as well just make sure that people aren't too pissed off.
yeah,
If
exactly. Like
if
ripping off a
you
band-aid.
right, exactly. So just like like lower the temperature by doing that, and I'm sure the more and more goodwill, the less and less people
Less
are
and less
gonna
people are gonna die. Yeah, exactly.
die.
Like,
It's just but we have such a you know the we have such a way of like doing politics that it's like a boxing match,
yep.
and that's what makes it so disgusting, because the thing
Yeah,
negativity gets people so much more engaged than positivity does, and that's one of the
yeah,
darkest, most
yeah,
perverse incentives out there.
because they don't have enough positivity. They don't have enough hope in the first place. Like,
Right, and
so
it's
it's
so
like,
just drama for no reason,
yeah,
no reason, just just drama, and it's like just drama is stupid, and it's a waste of time. But like
yep.
we're just so used to like people just want drama because they're bored or because they watch too many movies or some shit like that. So
Or
then the
because they're
politicians,
really desperate and or feel really scared and angry, and it's sort of like an outlet. It's like what's the word I'm looking for? Like when it's like a cathartic, because it's like they feel cathartic when they either one see their enemies, like Schadenfreude sort of stuff, where like they see their enemies suffering, like just desserts, like sort of thing. It's like versus or like when they see like their own side like triumphing, and it's like yeah, we were right all along, you were wrong, blah, blah, like
and that's why like Yang was such a foreign concept to so many
yeah.
people, because like they're like,
Mhm.
oh, he's not all about drama, and he actually deals in like facts and logic and solving problems.
I'm
It's
sure
like,
that scared a
is he
lot of
from
people.
outer space? It's like,
Right, exactly.
stupid idiots.
That probably scared a lot of people. Now that I think
Right,
it scared a lot of
exactly.
people, not just at the top, but on the ground too, because it was so alien to them.
They suck. Of course they're going to be afraid. It's like, wow, we're really shit
Yeah,
at our jobs, and we don't contribute to anything that's even remotely meaningful.
and
Oh
they
my
just fight each
god.
other constantly. Yeah, it's like
Right.
people, and it's like people who like are just so used to fighting the culture war instead of actually doing
Mhm.
having a real job. People whose whole job is to fight the culture war, like that kind of person. Those kind of people. When they see someone like Andrew Yang, they're gonna be like freaking out and like that's so alien to them. They're gonna be like, "There's got to be some way he's still fighting the culture war." There's got to be some
Mhm.
way that he's has this hidden like agenda to hurt someone because
Right,
everybody
yeah.
who's dealing with does.
Right.
Being genuinely nice to everyone, not just to one side and not the other, but like he's being genuinely nice to everyone, our whole society. The fact that he cares about everyone, the fact that he wants to make everybody his constituent, not just one party or another. They're not used to that. That was alien to them, and that made them very suspicious because they were like, "Well, there's got to be some sort of hidden motive." Like everyone always has, it's like that sort of like paranoia and suspicion and like what's the word I'm looking for? I forgot, but anyways, you see what I mean.
Yeah, it's such a joke,
Yeah.
and we look to the dumbest people to get our information from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or people who are the most incomplete and unbalanced. Is another way to put it. Like people, because people tend to specialize a lot and they have like giant blind spots. Like when people don't listen to each other, when people who have different values that they prioritize don't listen to each other, because what people care about most informs what kinds of information is most relevant to them. So it's like if they're only paying attention to the information that's most relevant to what they care about, they're only hearing a small part of the story. And if they feel like everyone else who makes different trade offs than them, everyone else who values other things more, so other kinds of information are more relevant to them. It's like, well, and they're like, well, if you don't care about the same things as me to the same extent, then it's like, then you're gonna make trade offs that like hurt me. It's like this whole like, you know, people aren't like making compromises or like thinking outside the box solutions. So it's like they just end up like playing this tug of war. Then people don't trust information that comes from someone that they believe wants them hurt or dead.
Yeah.
So it's not just stupidity. It's a bit more complicated than that. But a lot of times people don't realize it because they're just so used to it, they don't even think to question it.
It's it's just this kind of like blindness that people don't think about the possibilities. They're just they're just in their bubbles, and that's just so sad. And
like if you only have like if you only every one of us only two pairs of eyes, so that none of us can see everything. So we need to listen to other people, each other, to get more perspectives because we're only seeing things from one angle ourselves.
right.
But we're not. But we're only listening to eyes that see one side of the cube. Then everything on the other side is like invisible to us, and we get blindsided by it.
Right, and we're like in a system of competition, instead of collaboration. And ever since like the schools prioritize these stupid like standardized tests and all this other trash that doesn't add anything to your value as a human being and just stresses you out and just waste your time. Stupid.
Yeah, I mean, competition isn't always a bad thing. I'm like challenging Andrew Yang to an economic recovery tool. It's just that too much competition in the wrong context with too high stakes, that's when it becomes a problem. Like competition is great when it doesn't have life or death stakes. It's when it has life or death stakes. It's like why?
Right. Yeah. Well, and the thing is that like you're not helped by these dumb tests because you just forget about them once you turn it into a teacher, and that's basically that.
Yep. Yep.
It's like I never had one person who I worked for ask me for my report card, that's for sure.
Yeah.
and then they tell you it's like it's so important, so it wasn't.
Yeah, it's like they tell you when you're in grade school, like, hey, you need to learn cursive because it's going to be really important later in life, and they never just will like send your signature. It was like after you learn, so like the first time you learn cursive when you're when you're in elementary school, like you don't need to practice it anymore. You already have good enough like handwriting to write your signature, because your signature just has to be unique. That's all it needs. It doesn't need to be like super legible as long as it's just.
I heard that like when you swipe your credit card, and then they tell you to like sign a receipt, like that never really goes anywhere. Like they don't check it up against anything else. It's all just a show. Like they say, oh,
Well,
just
not
put
do
your
that.
signature. You can just put a line, and it wouldn't matter. Like
Maybe, but
like
I'm wondering if it might only matter if you're like suspected of fraud or
no,
like
no,
theft or
but
something.
I
Then they
heard
start
that
looking at
like
it, right?
they have like no way of
That makes sense.
knowing, like they can't, it just goes through. That's the thing, especially in restaurants.
Security
They
theater.
don't even. Yeah,
Right.
it's all theater.
Right. I see what you mean because like we don't really own our own like transactions to a large extent because it's owned by the credit card companies, which means like the fact that they have us sign off on it is just a fiction, make us feel
Yeah,
like we have more control.
right. Yeah, it's
Although honestly, it feels like just swiping my card. At this point, it feels like swiping my card itself is like me giving permission. It's like
yeah,
if somebody else swipes my card instead of me,
it's
that I guess that's the reason they like have like the signature thing as a security theater. Like there's a risk that somebody.
yeah. Well, the real thing is like you just have to look and you have to call, but the signature doesn't mean shit.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Because if the
Yeah,
signature actually mattered, we wouldn't have to make the phone call, would we?
right. Yeah.
If somebody steals my credit card and uses it, they don't need to make any signatures, which is why I have to call the credit card company in the first place. If they actually paid
Right.
attention to my signature, they wouldn't.
Well,
They would be all,
now it's not even, it's not even a swipe anymore. Like some of these
yeah,
things have the not even the chip, like the chip, but it's like it's contactless. That's the coolest thing. It's just like money being spent with in like floating in like
yeah. It's like
fit
right,
like air yeah, it's through a signal, even like not
yeah.
even
And that
like it
really
can be.
bugs me. I've made transactions online. And it's like I didn't give them permission to store my credit card information, but somehow Google still remembers my debit card. Google has stored my debit card information without my permission, so that I can remember it next time. I don't need them to remember it. I just want to type it in every time. Or someone
Right,
they
yeah.
took that away from me without my consent. It was really pissing me
Yeah,
off.
it's like you said, like value is a placeholder, but I do think it's like it for me. It was like fun using the contactless payments the first time and like money through the
Yeah,
phone. But right,
yeah,
that's all. Like money is a mental construct. Even it's not
yeah.
even like
It is.
now with the digits and stuff and all that. So it really, it's just a placeholder for value. It's like too much, too little. It's like as
Contract.
long as we
Yeah,
like don't run out of resources, like there could be infinite money.
mhm,
Like
yep.
that's all there is to it.
Right. Well,
Interesting when you
there
think
is an actual resource being expended behind the money, and it's not what people normally think of. But the thing is, what the resource is trust. Trust.
Mm-hmm.
The trust is what relationships are built on. Give and take, exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
So like those numbers, what they actually represent, I think, is it's how much trust you're being given. To either get something done or have something done for you. Like or to have something
Mm-hmm.
given to you or to give something to somebody else. So like if you give somebody, it's like you give you write it down on a piece of paper. Hey, please do a favor for this person on my behalf. But if they don't trust you, they're not going to take that paper seriously. They have to
Mm-hmm.
trust you that you're telling the truth about that. That for one,
Mm-hmm.
that 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 you are who you say you are, and that you are owed a favor, and two, that the person that you're asking them to do a favor for on your behalf is also someone who's trustworthy, who you've like vetted. Basically, you can say, hey, yeah, this person is cool. I know them. And since you know me, you can trust me. You can trust this person too. And therefore, if I ask you, please do a favor for this other person for me, then you'll know that I'm telling the truth and that other person is honest. You know.
Yeah.
And the reason we've got quantified things so precisely, probably to a large extent, is because when you're dealing with that in large, giant chains of exchanges, you don't personally know every single person in the chain. So it's like if I
Mm-hmm.
if I ask somebody to do a favor for me on my behalf, a favor for somebody else on my behalf, and that favor and then like the favor they do is to discharge the favor to somebody else. So it's like I'm like, so person A is like, please do a favor for person B on person A's behalf. Then person B, and then they go to person B and say, hey, what do you want, person B? What favor do you want done for you? And person B says, the favor I want done for me is for you to do a favor for person C on my behalf. See where this is going, right? Then person C doesn't know person A. Person A doesn't know person C. So it's like, you know, that's why they have all the quantified like numbers and stuff so that they can pin down, you know, with rules and everything that they can make sure they can keep track of it. That way, if somebody like violates an agreement or doesn't give as much as they were supposed to, or receive as much as they were supposed to, they can like track it and know somebody's to blame. You know,
Yeah.
there's
So
no filing involved. You know, that's the problem.
yeah, it's a fascinating thing, but like, what's gonna make sure that this, like, there's more trust in the system? Happier people.
Yeah,
Like people who don't have a reason to hurt someone else or cheat and lie and bullshit. Basically.
Yeah, happier people, infrastructure on the ground, more
Right?
development. Yeah, that's what we need.
But when you have people who are in like states of like stress or worry or anger and frustration, you're more liable to have these systems exploited and ignored and
Exploiting, yeah,
stuff like that, you know, and
yeah,
it's really kind of intuitive in that kind of sense, but like we like I think the the thing that's really bad is that means testing like assumes the worst of people rather than the best of people.
It
You
assumes
know?
the default behavior that people will be like
Yeah.
advantage rather than treating, you know, people as like, you know, like they're actually going to use it well as the default.
Yeah, exactly. It's that, and then when you assume people are gonna be bad, then they're probably gonna be bad. If you set up a system that like stresses people out and makes them worry and tries to like, you know, make things complicated and frustrated for them, you're gonna end up with unfortunately not such great people. And I think that's why like the United States has more mass killers than any other country.
Right.
That's what I heard.
Extreme economic inequality, despite our much like in our economic inequality is probably in a lot of ways higher than most countries simply because we have more resources to be unequal in the first place. You know, like so like the difference between those at the top and those at the bottom in our country probably a lot higher than the difference in other countries. You know,
right?
We have more stuff in the first place.
It reminds me of that movie with Eddie Murphy, Trading Spaces, where those two brothers thought like, is it nature or is it nurture? So they got off. They got like the investment banker, and they put him on the streets, and they got the guy on the streets and made him into an investment banker. And little by little, like you know, that they started acting different. So it's like it's not like they're naturally like people want to steal and lie and bullshit. It's just what are the environmental incentives that control people's behavior, that like determine people's behavior. And yeah, like it's not that complicated. Like like I hate all these like stupid economists and experts like making all these predictions and saying all these like stupid things. It's not that, like, and they don't look at like behavioral sciences. They just look at all these like other things, and it's like you morons. Like people like you don't take people's emotions or life situations or environments into account when you dumb shits are making all these calculations.
Well, part of the reason for that is also because as I think I mentioned this. I don't remember if I mentioned this interview over on your channel or whether it was on the Roundtable channel, like this one. But I did mention at least one of the two interviews that like about how like our society like has like a lot of like trust in analysts, but not so much trust in seers. And that creates a bit of an imbalance because like you know the seers are the ones who like tend to be more likely to generate predictions, you know, and extend predictions farther. They actually search through space of possibilities, you know, like versus an analyst is like more likely to narrow things down, for
Mm-hmm.
like because like a seer, their skill. Well, for one thing, I would say I'm going to reiterate that their skills are entirely explainable within a naturalistic worldview. It's just a combination of like intuition, imagination, empathy, understanding of human nature, and perceptual insight skills and organizational planning skills. Like those types of skills, when you combine them,
Mm-hmm.
you basically get like the kind of things that people normally think of as psychic powers if somebody is skilled enough at it. It's just
Yeah.
that because they often lack the analytical skills, and the grounding in like the theories or whatever of like the particular field, because they weren't included in those fields. So it's like, they don't know how to communicate what they're seeing to an establishment professional in a way that will make sense to them. They just sound like crazy gibberish.
Right. Yeah. Well,
So,
well,
but
that's the thing. Like, I don't even know why there should be like certain legal jargon for things.
yeah,
It's like like people know like right is right, wrong is
yeah,
wrong, but then like
exactly.
all this jargon, like
It needs to be in
it's
plain
like
English. Yeah,
you should be able to defend yourself and not
yeah,
like okay, here, bottom line, justice shouldn't depend on how much money you have. If
right,
you do wrong, you're doing wrong. If you do right, you're doing right.
exactly,
No matter how high priced lawyer that you can afford. I mean,
exactly.
that should
Yeah,
just be there, you know.
right. And it's like because a part of it is also, I think, like our civilization has gotten more and more complicated because we keep trying to patch the holes. So we
Yeah.
keep trying to patch all these holes in our infrastructure and rules and stuff, and it's like, but then but we patch it with more infrastructure and rules. We just keep
All right.
creating this endless series of sub rules,
Yeah.
and exceptions, the exceptions, instead of just you
All
know
right.
getting the rules we need like at the basic rules we need, and then like using incentive systems and mechanisms that like get people to like not want to commit the crimes, rather than like we don't need all this rules lawyering. We don't need like everybody to be munchkins, like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
like and it just when we constantly try to like make everything more complicated, like make all these like
Right.
patches to the rules to make them even more, pin them down ever more tightly. Like that just makes it more confusing. People are more likely to break them.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like when I think of like trying to make things more complicated, I think of like a doctor that's stupid enough to like uh like on the operating table, like make a new gash or wound for the patient and be like, "Oh no, I need the practice." Like it's
Wow.
like really like this is what you're saying. It's like dumbass
You need to practice. Get another patient.
like
Find another patient. Like if you
get
need more
get another job or work on a
patients.
dummy. It's like there's no need to cause more damage than there already is just because you think
Yeah.
you need like a challenge or like things shouldn't be fair,
Right.
you idiot.
It's like,
You
we're already
know?
hard if you know where to look.
And that's basically what the argument of against UBI for me boils down to is like the doctor thinking they should hurt the patient even more so they have more to operate on. It's like
I mean, that's what the argument against it is now. Because we have automation. Before, like, if we
right,
had,
exactly.
like, if we didn't have automation, the argument would be a lot stronger. But it's
Right, it
not
would
automation.
sure.
It's like,
Like the when I saw Peter Schiff, I like to call him Bullshiff, like talking about he's always like simping for gold and talking about like that, and he says like, oh, you can't just if they're not there, if they're not producing, if you give them that, they keep on talking about like hyperinflation this and
oh
hyperinflation
gosh,
that, but like there's already so much money being printed out for the corporations and the military industrial complex
yeah,
anyway, and we don't have hyperinflation. And and
yeah,
he's not even taking into account like all the BS jobs that like don't contribute like
and
physical anything to our society, but they have these high compensation packages for just dealing with paperwork and signing things
yeah,
and like being a go-between. They're not producing anything either, idiot. But we don't see any hyperinflation and all this other crap that you're constantly fear-mongering about because you're an asshole.
Although to be fair,
Like-
part of it might also be because we have a lot of we already have a lot of hyperinflation already that we're just used to from educational decay. You know, the pseudo inflation. You know,
Oh, yeah,
where it's
no. You're talking about academic inflation. Like you're talking about
well,
like
no, I'm still talking about inflation in the sense of like how much people value money versus the things that it buys. You know, because like
right, yeah.
people are less educated and they're less skilled and they don't know what they're doing.
I mean, one
then they're
guy,
spending more money to get the same results. You
right?
know?
One guy bought like a Cheeto shaped as Harambe. You want to talk about like stupid? And he bought it for like $50,000 or some stupid, nonsense like that. And I'm like, okay, like we have these like ultra rich people like buying trash for like thousands and thousands of dollars, and this chip guy isn't saying shit about that, but yet he's scared of the guy getting like $1,000 in unemployment money because he's an asshole. I don't like it. I disgust me.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. It's really ridiculous just how like these people with all these labels making these arguments not based in reality or fact or substance. Yeah.
And it's like, and a part of the problem is also that like when you have a society that puts a lot of trust in people who evaluate predictions, but not people who make predictions, and it's like, I mean, that's a bit of a simplification there, but like, it's like if you're like really really like taking your society taking its precious time to like double check and triple check and quadruple check everything over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Then it's like it's not getting really much anywhere at all.
It's analysis paralysis.
Over again.
That's for sure. And
Yeah.
and I like to say like the only inflation that I see is the inflation of the already overinflated egos of all the experts.
Because they just double check and triple check and evaluate and flesh out all these same ideas that they already have. And what we need is not just to improve the ideas we already have. We need new ideas, not improving old ideas. We need new ideas. But like coming up with new ideas is, coming up with new ideas and coming up with like new predictions and new hypotheses. That's more of something for someone who has a lot of imagination, not for someone who has the analytical.
Yeah, it's so disgusting how we like discourage the creative kind of like things in our in the way we teach and in the way we do everything. It's like we say like,
to the extreme when we really need imagination. Like imagination isn't for fiction; it's for exploring possibilities. Possibilities are things that could become true or could already be true, and you just don't know it yet. It's like if we don't use our imaginations, we can't figure out. We cannot search through the space of possibilities to find the predictions that are worth testing in the first place.
Right.
We need to use our imagination to generate the predictions we need to test.
Yeah. It's like thing, but it's like how much longer do we have to wait for these boomers to croak?
We don't need to wait for them to croak. We just start building our own infrastructure and let them get on board.
Yeah.
And part of it is also that because they're afraid, because they're like think they're like about to croak or something, that causes a lot of stagnation because it's like, well, they're probably thinking something on some level. They're probably thinking something like, well, we're just going to die soon anyway, so what's the point? We're just going to die soon anyways. Why do we have to change what we're doing? We've been doing things the same way all our lives, and we're about to die soon anyways. We're not going to gain much, by making all these dramatic changes, like we don't, because like we're not going to see any of the benefits. We're not going to like, that's what they're probably thinking, or even not only that, but like they might be thinking like how much they might be saying something like, how much effort do I have to go to? How much do I have to pay? How much do I have to do? How much do I have to contribute to actually have a positive legacy at this point? Like if they're like if they're thinking like that, if they're thinking like, well, nothing I do at this point is going to matter because I don't have the knowledge and the skills and the insights, to fix everything myself. I don't know what to do now. I'm just going to do the same things I've already done because I don't know what else to do. People hate me for that. Whatever. That's probably a lot of what they're thinking too. Because they don't, and to them, they don't understand that UBI, let us solve the problems. Let us do it. Let us have the chance to try things. You don't have if you're worried about if you're worried that you're not good enough and you're not smart enough or wise enough that nothing you do is going to fix the problems that need to be fixed because you're not perfect, then let's increase the manpower, increase the number of brains that are helping. Let other people have the chance to try to tackle the problems, even if they're not as experienced as you, because you gave them a foundation, you laid the groundwork that they can build on. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a process. Definitely.
Yeah, because all these tech companies, all these software tech companies, and all these people built all this automation. That is the groundwork that allowed us to get all this plenty, so we don't need slavery anymore. That's the right there that we can build on. But
right. Oh,
people just don't get that.
Yeah, 100%. I have to jump into Leyline. They're having a Q&A, but
Nice.
it's been fun, you guys.
I learned a bit about Leyland earlier. I meant to get into that, but I totally forgot about it because got busy.
Yeah.
I lost my. They never sent me the Discord invite. They said the guy was like, "I'll send you an invite to our Discord server." He never did.
Okay. Just remind him again. I'll talk to you.
I don't have his contact information.
Yeah.
You hear me say that? Anyways, Nathan Shale is not here either. Something.
I'm here. All right. Wow. That's pretty cool. All right.